Hi everybody, Lucas and Cynthia with Hometown Hero. Thank you for joining us today. And also a huge thank you to everybody on our SB3 video that commented and shared it with their friends and family and industry people. Had a ton of views, also a ton of comments, so can't thank you enough. Cynthia, what are we doing today?
Well, the SB3 video did so well that today we're going to talk about other things happening in the Texas legislature, like over 80 bills being filed in terms of either cannabis or hemp or marijuana regulation.
We're up to 80?
Over 80.
And then the last day to file bills is?
It's March something, it's toward the end of March.
Okay, so we still have plenty of time. We're already
Oh,
dating.
yes. So the difference is that SB3, for example, has a very low bill number. So when it has a low bill number, that means it's going to get priority. Yep. Bills that end up with, 2387
1247.
Yeah, exactly. Those do not get as much priority, obviously, because, and I actually looked it up one time, and every successive year, more bills get filed. And last year was like 8,000 bills were filed and like 700 something passed.
It's crazy. I looked up this morning, one of the politicians that interacts with us, I looked up how many bills he filed in 2023 and 2025. 2023, he was up to, I think, 197 he authored. And so far, I think he's only up to about 80 this session. But it's wild that like a single person could author hundreds of bills.
Yeah, and obviously they have staff and they have lawyers and attorneys that are working on this stuff. But it's the ones with a low bill number that have the priority. Yeah. So sometimes they'll file a bill to appease someone or as a favor or to bring attention to a particular issue, not expecting it to pass.
It's why we did a whole video on SB3. and SB 1254 will probably not get a whole video.
So yeah, exactly. And I think we're up to, in bill filings, we're up to like 1,800 so far, something like that. Yeah. Anyway, so we have over 80 bills that are related either to, don't yell at me, stay with me for a second, cannabis, marijuana, or hemp. And I'm breaking them out like that because that's what a lot of these bills do, which is not going to bring a lot of clarity to the session. So if you come to me, you're a constituent and you say, hey, cannabis is great, and you're talking about the hemp industry, what do you think is gonna happen?
You get confused and people assume it's marijuana or hemp, or they don't know. And cannabis is sort of a ubiquitous term that's used for hemp and marijuana. The problem is when you use that term, nobody knows what you're talking about. And so this is the big problem that California has, is everything is cannabis, 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 cannabis.
Yes.
So wait, you can say cannabis and it doesn't mean hemp, but it means marijuana. And so it gets real confusing in some of these states that default to cannabis language. And it's one of the reasons we encourage legislators and states, as they're going through this process, you really got to determine whether it's marijuana or hemp in terms of the language and what you're trying to accomplish, because just using the cannabis is such a vague term, it doesn't make sense in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and some of these legislators who are more forward-thinking, shall we say, and they're like, oh, free the plant, marijuana should just be legal, they use cannabis.
The only thing that matters from the perspective of the government is Delta-9 THC on a dry weight basis. That is it. That is the only thing that matters. Other than that, it's the same plant.
Okay, so this one, for example, SB 170, relates to the possession, use, cultivation, distribution, sale, and delivery and research of medical cannabis for medical use. What is medical cannabis? And this is bill number SB 170. What is medical cannabis?
That is so vague, I have no idea.
Okay. This one's actually about marijuana. This one, HB 2958, I lied, we're up to 29s. 2958, relating to the drug testing of certain persons seeking benefits under the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program. Is the drug cannabis? Is it marijuana?
Yeah, that's the problem with any of these bills, and they're using the word cannabis, is nobody knows what you're talking about.
Let's see, HB 1301, relating to the sale of wine and malt beverages by certain alcoholic beverage manufacturers at a restaurant operated by the manufacturer. That's HB 1301. In there, in the text, is going to be something about hemp or cannabis or marijuana or THC, and some of them, by the way, only talk about THC.
And that is something to note. This session is the first time we've seen sort of alcohol-related companies start to dip their toes in the cannabis side, and whether it's marijuana or hemp, I say cannabis knowingly referring to both. The alcohol companies are interacting with the medical marijuana side and interacting with the hemp side, not in a whole bunch of positive ways from what we've seen so far. They're sort of making a mess, which they tend to do. And for those of you who don't know, Texas has a 3-tier alcohol distribution system that is widely referred to as a dumpster fire.
The fact that you talk about all this confusion and all this whatever is a really good thing to bring up, because SB3 is out and it's created, you know how when, let's say the house catches fire, and how people react in the fire tells you who they are. Like, Do they stay calm and collected and get the go bag and get the pets, get the kids? Or do they literally just start screaming around and running like crazy and whatever? And so we had a situation last week, literally the same day that SB3 came out, I can't even say it, SB3 came out, we had a prominent, it's not the biggest, but it's a prominent Texas company basically start carving up the industry without buy-in from anybody else. And it kind of reminds me, you remember back in the vape days, Juul? Juul would go out, so we had the whole vape space, which included, mods and all these, devices that came from China and all these, whatever. And then Juul goes out and they start making pronouncements for the entire hemp industry. I remember one time I got into an argument with somebody from there because they said, oh, we're good with black and white packaging. The industry is good with, and I'm like, no. Nobody said the industry was good with black and white packaging.
And the flavor thing?
The flavor thing. So they would make these unanimous decisions, and then everybody else was expected to go along with them because they were a large company, and they had a big government relations firm that worked, in-house and all this other stuff. So we kind of had this situation happen in Texas, and essentially this company offered up THCA flower. Now,
to get rid of it.
Yes, they offered it up as a sacrificial lamb. Now, I expect in Florida, Minnesota, Illinois, the drinks people, and this is like marijuana companies that have drinks, or hemp people who've pivoted to drinks or whatever, they will throw everybody under the bus just to make sure that the drinks survive. It's a short-term strategy. It is not strategic at all because how many brands can you have on the market? How many can you have, right? So they will carve out a little whatever. Do you want to read some of this?
Yeah, so this was given to us by somebody in the industry, and apparently this has been floated around. A lot of people have seen this. We aren't the only people that have seen this.
Oh no, apparently this thing is everywhere.
If you're in the industry, you've probably already seen it. So Lewis will put a link to it. You guys can take a peek at it. I think it's important that people understand sort of what's going on and what different companies are trying to do different things within the industry. So essentially, harmful smokables endanger children. They're going after vapes. They're going after a lot of different things. Really trying to
Does it say vapes in there?
Ban smokable hemp-derived products, including vapes and flower. Right
okay,
there.
Well, I find that interesting because HB 1505
Well, Texas Originals is essentially
pushing for an expansion so they can sell
So we've
vapes.
got a hemp company that's trying to ban vapes and flower, and then we've got a medical marijuana company essentially that has proposed a bill to take those products into their realm.
Purview.
So like the timing of these things gets real sketchy and gets weird, and it gets really odd. And so this is
Do you
something.
feel like backroom deals are being made?
This is something that I cannot be more clear. We had nothing to do with this.
No.
We do not support it. And if anything, we want to make sure that people are aware of this so that they understand sort of what we're up against as a company. Not only are we, fighting with the state of Texas to make sure that these hemp products stay, legal within our state, we're also fighting within, there are companies with our industry that take it upon themselves to think that they can just sort of eliminate a lot of our industry and take it for themselves. And so there's a lot of like weird backdoor deals going on. And this is normal to us. For those of you guys out there, it might not be, and I think it's important that you guys understand what we're dealing with and sort of what we're up against, and we go to these different, politicians and try and work with them to protect our industry, and they've got something like this that's sitting on their desk.
The most important thing for any industry that is under a threat like this one is unity.
Yeah.
We have to be united, and already folks have started peeling off to carve out deals. And listen, I don't care what you think about vapes or flower or any particular product category. We don't offer up sacrificial lambs at the beginning of session. We don't offer them up at all. But it's a terrible negotiating strategy. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, I've been doing this for a long time. You've been doing this for a year, maybe 2 years. You don't know everything. Like, it's okay to take a step back, get some feedback from somebody and say, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Is this good timing or whatever? But like just going off half-cocked doesn't help the industry.
And just so everybody's clear on sort of our big picture strategy, I think it's important that everybody understands this. Our goal always, in every single session, every year, has been to protect the industry the way it is, right? That is the most ideal outcome for us in every legislative session. It's something we are attempting to do again this year, and we've been successful at it for 2 prior sessions. So that is something that is we take a lot of pride in what we do and how we do this. Stuff like this is a train wreck. It's a disaster, and it goes completely against what we're trying to do and protect this industry and make sure that everybody can continue to operate the way that we're operating.
And I think that it's incumbent upon people in the industry to keep their vendors and their suppliers in check and be like, listen, I'm not going to buy from you if you're going to go off and carve up deals on your own. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's like politics. You vote with your pocketbook, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, as you're going through making decisions on what companies to work with, keep in mind if companies are not actively supporting what's going on in Texas and not making an effort, especially for out-of-state companies as well, hey, make sure you're supporting companies that are active in this fight.
Do you remember about 8 months ago, it was around June of last year of 2024, certain people came out of the woodwork, people we had never heard of before, came out of the woodwork and were like, what have you done besides file a lawsuit? We're gonna handle this. Zero experience, sketchy background, not particularly well-spoken, but my point is that in like 2023, we were doing, because nothing happened in 2023, and we had Hometown Hero had 3 lobby teams on the ground doing their thing, and then in the last 3 weeks of the session, some rogue character showed up and was like, I have a strategy, I'm gonna do it. And it's like, we've been working on this for months. Why?
This session we've been preparing literally since the day last session ended. We've been preparing for this session with lobbyists, with teams, with the politicians, with everybody. So, everybody doesn't always get to see what we do, but just know. And
there's a reason for that.
There is a reason for that. Just so everybody knows, Cynthia and I are working on this every single day, and it's not just us. We had a call this morning with, 12 people
13
that represented a larger group of all their staff and all the people that they work with. So this is something that we spend a ridiculous amount of time and resources on every single day, not just like 1 day a week thing or a check-in meeting. This is every single day. This is who we are. This is what we do. This fight is part of our business. It's already built into our financials. We understand the expense involved in this. A lot of people don't understand how much money we spend on this. It is wild how much money we spend on this.
I am not a morning person. I hate mornings. I am a terrible morning person. Like, I'll be at the meeting, but we had a 7:30 a.m. call today.
I loved it. It was a great call.
Because we're just in it, and so it has to happen. So anyway, I said all that to say that now is not a good time for people to try to be Superman or Batman or Iron Man or, the Black Widow, whatever, pick one.
There is a solid strategy in place. There's solid teams in place. Everything is moving the way it should. The kind of only thing that causes potential hiccups and speed bumps is stuff like this. This does not help. This makes a mess and it confuses people. And when you start confusing politicians, that's where it gets complicated. And then we have to go back and explain why this is bad and why a company in our industry went rogue and did something, that we don't agree with. And we have to explain why. And now it puts us on the defensive when we should be on the offensive and working with everybody to get this done.
I've had 3 calls from 3 different people about how they are going to handle this with the lieutenant governor. They're just going to go to Lieutenant Dan and they're going to say, hey, you need to shut this down. And I'm like, listen.
If that was possible, we would have already done it.
Well, hey, listen, if somebody can shut it down, great. But the only way that anybody can do that, the only way that there is success, that we will know there was success, is if it never gets a hearing in the Senate. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're in the same boat as everybody else. So those 3 folks who are like, I'm just gonna go visit Lieutenant Dan and handle this because you guys haven't handled it, good luck to you. And if it gets heard in the Senate, then you wasted a visit.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Are there any other bills that are on the same tier of watch list as SB 3?
I think Rosenthal's HB 1750 is a ban bill. There's more than one ban bill, by the way, and there are bills that attempt to expand TCUP while trying to shut us down, but none of them have the legs that SB 3 would have.
Where can people view, is there somewhere they can type in hemp and see all the hemp bills that get pulled up?
If you go to Texas Legislature Online, just type in Texas Legislature Online. You can search all the bills. You can just put in hemp, and it'll bring up every bill that has been filed.
Because I know people are
hemp.
going to ask, where can I see these?
Yeah.
I'm actually curious. I want to go through every single bill and look at them. And there's a lot.
I mean, we Hometown Hero, we pay for a bill tracker for the whole country,
which is
and the
pretty
federal,
expensive.
Very expensive. For the federal, for the whole whatever, so we can whatever. But if you just want to
I'm
look
just
at Texas,
a consumer out there and I want to go through and see all
Texas
these bills.
Legislature Online, absolutely.
Perfect. We'll have Louis throw a link on the description.
Yeah. Let's see. This is an interesting one. HCR 14 urging the federal government to declare foreign drug cartels as terrorist organizations. Attorney General Paxton is talking about how there is so much cartel activity in Texas, and yet there is a bill proposed that will hand over an entire industry to the cartels that would be designated foreign terrorist how does any of this make sense? What else? HB 1208, relating to the regulation, cultivation, manufacture, processing, distribution, sale, testing, transportation, delivery, transfer, possession, use, taxation of cannabis and cannabis products. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about?
There's no way to know.
No way to know.
Cannabis. Talking about cannabis.
So are they legalizing marijuana? Are they just trying to solidify things for hemp?
Who knows?
Who knows? This is what we have. We have to comb through every single one of these bills.
So you have to, then you have to go through and read through all the language within the bill and determine what exactly they're talking about and whether it's hemp or marijuana related.
So again, you know, when you speak to your legislators, when you speak to folks, and Lucas alluded to it earlier, we have plans. You guys are going to know what the plans are because we're going to include you in them at the appropriate time, but this is all information that needs to make its way and will make its way to the legislature, hopefully with your help. And when you call your legislators, you need to tell them, this is how much money I make from my store, and this is how many people I'm gonna have to lay off. Again, you wanna be polite, you wanna be, you know, just direct.
But don't base it on emotions, base it on facts.
Correct. We will lose this many locations, this is how many people will go on unemployment, et cetera, et cetera. This is how many leases we will default on, that kind of thing. And again, we'll put together a more cohesive thing that we'll share with everybody. But this is amazing.
We'll put the link again in the description for everybody to figure out who your local representatives are and who to contact. Lewis can pop that in the description again, and you simply put in your address, and it'll give you exactly who to call and who to talk to.
And on that happy note,
thank you for joining us as always. Tons of love, happy hunting. Lucas and Cynthia with Hometown Hero, thank you.